Hello everybody, Dark Primitive here from Split Polygon, and this is my quick bits. Today we're going to look at more interesting ways to model complicated objects, and it's not your like box modeling or edge extrusion modeling kind of methods. It's more of utilizing deformers and kind of little quick tricks and tips to kind of get a complicated shapes going. So for this example, I'm going to use a soccer ball as an example to kind of showcase this method, but really this can be applied to any kind of similar objects. So a soccer ball is a quite interesting object because it does have a lot of details going on, but it has to remain a perfectly spherical object. So that can be a challenge. So a couple of versions ago, I think it's like my 2017 or something, or 2016.5, they added some of these extra primitives, and one of them is a soccer ball. Now, if you look at it by default, it doesn't really look like something you can use, and even if you go to the settings over here, it doesn't really have anything apart from the radius and the set length. What it does have actually is a UVs, which is very, very useful for us. I'm gonna just quickly unlock my Maya interface to dock this, and then I'm gonna lock it again so I can't move it. Alright, so because these UVs exist, it's gonna make our lives a lot easier. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna assign a new material to this, and let's use Redshift for this one. I'm gonna make it a white Redshift material, and I'm gonna give it a roughness of 0.6, maybe 5.6. All right, then if I open the UV editor, if I go to face mode, I can select all of these smaller ones, which will be the black uh, you know, elements of the soccer ball. I'm going to disable the grid for now because it's kind of distracting. And with them selected, oh, I missed one. Just double check. Okay, look like I have all of them. So with all of these selected, what I can do is assign new material to them, and let's give it a new redshift to make it black, maybe not like super black, and give it a roughness of 0.6 because they technically should be the same material. Now the problem is if you subdivide this, and let me just disable this to make this easier for you, it doesn't really look great by default. So as you can see, it's very wobbly, it doesn't hold the edges. So first thing we can do is select all of these edges and click bevel. Now one thing that's going to happen is once you bevel, you're going to see you're going to break your materials. So I'm going to lower the fraction down, and if I increase the segments to an even number, you see all my material assignment goes back to normal. So I'm going to just disable this. I'm going to enable actually use default material again. Now this fraction distance here is going to be very important dependent on what you want to make. The type of soccer ball that I'm going to go for is slightly modern. The older ones, they have a slightly bigger gap in between, and you can even see some of the threads. But with some of the newer ones that I found as reference, this gap is becoming a lot tighter. I'm guessing the technology is progressing and they can make them closer together or something. But yeah, I'm just gonna give it a little bit. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my UV editor, and I'm gonna select all of the internal faces again. But this time I'm gonna select all of them, not just the black ones. And this is very quickly done if you already have UVs, which is why I love this method so much. So after I did this, I can go control right click to edges, and that's going to convert this to an edge selection. Now I still like what I want to do is want to isolate this border between these large polygons. So if I increase my selection by growing it, that would encompass everything but them, which is exactly what I want, because now I can go shift and click and drag a marquee selection, and that will invert the selection for me. So now I have only the internal ones, which is great. So what I can do is I can do create sets, quick select sets, and I can just name this border edges. All right. As soon as I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a smooth modifier or a smooth node in Maya, and I'm going to type maybe like 2 subdivisions should be fine for this. And all we did is we converted this to a hard surface object. So if I subdivide this, or even without subdivision, you can clearly see that this is not a soccer ball. It does look cool, but not what we need. So what we can do now is we can create a sphere and give it a bit more segments, maybe like 60 or so, and we can scale it in just so we cannot see it anymore. Alright, so then I'm going to select the soccer ball object and the sphere, and I'm going to go to deform, shrink wrap. I'm going to click this. I'm going to make sure that towards the inner object is selected, because this will determine how the projection will happen. And we're going to click create. As soon as we do that, we've projected our mesh onto the sphere, and now it's perfectly spherical object. So what I can do now is delete my history, delete my sphere. If you don't delete the history but you delete the sphere, you're gonna snap your object back to being square again, or not square but like a hard surface. So now we have this, and the only thing remaining is to isolate them. So let's go to select, where is it, quick select set border edges, or you can just click it here. All of your edges are inside. So if I start selecting, you can see they're going to start popping up. So let's go select, quick select border edges, and that's going to select all of them for us. Quick rundown to see if anything broke because of the smooth node. It shouldn't. Like, if everything goes well, all of your selections should be preserved even after all the edits you did after you saved them. One thing to mention though is if you bevel, that will break them, because that will shift these edges around and it will break them. Right, so let's go to, what should we do, that transform component from? Okay, transform component, thank you. So let's zoom in here and see what we can do is just move this in based on the normals, and depending on how much of a gap you want, you can move it in more. You can bevel this at this point if you want them to be wider and tighter, but that's pretty much your soccer ball being done at this point. So if I disable this, and let's see, where's my grid? Okay, there it is. So now we are pretty much done with the modeling, and let's just move it up, and let's just, for fun, let's just put it somewhere like integrate it into a shot, quote unquote. Alright, so we have Redshift materials, which means we can use Redshift dome light, and we can make a plane that will catch our shadows. So I'm gonna grab an HDRI, maybe HDRI Heaven. Everything from HDRI Heaven is completely free, so those guys are just phenomenal. So I'm just gonna go to outdoor, and let's pick this. Was this the beach one? Yeah, I like this one. So if we render this, excuse me, shift render view. If we render this right now, let's turn on IPR. Hey, we have our ball on the beach. Look at that. Now this shadow is not really looking great because of our plane intersecting, so we can assign a new material, and let's see, shadow catcher. Now all we need to do is turn on background is environment, and that will make it so that this will cast shadows. Now there's a couple things you can do with the shadow catcher is if you enable the diffuse, and you can match the color to this. Come on, help me out here. And then the bounce light and everything will match your environment a little better, or you can use an image here. You can do all sorts of stuff, like you can enable reflections, but the sand is not a reflective object, not a sharp reflection at least. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the tutorial. Like, we can spend some time shading this, making it look a bit more photorealistic, maybe paint some textures, maybe add some stitching in between the threads and stuff like that, but that's maybe a topic for another tutorial. I hope you liked this, guys, and I hope it helped you out, and if it did, feel free to like and subscribe to the video. It will help me out a ton, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.